A warm welcome to Business Daily right here on Trust TV. It's midweek rather, Wednesday morning here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am your host, Yusuf Akogo. The Islamic Development Bank annual general meeting is on the way right now in Saudi Arabia. Of course, the meeting has been flagged off in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia at the King's Congress Center, Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Saudi Arabia. Our correspondent Salim Umar Ibrahim, who is in Jeddah, report that the annual meeting is bringing together delegations from the group's 57 members countries, in addition to observers from international and regional organizations, to discuss development issues and institutional matters from today to 13th of May. While dignitaries and participants are arriving at the center, ISDB Group Boards, General Assembly of Federation of Consultants from Islamic countries, among others, were in a while ago in a closed door meeting. The opening ceremony of that event is expected to be held tomorrow. Stay tuned right here on Trust TV. We'll bring you update with all everything that you need to know from that conference with our correspondent Salim Umar Ibrahim, who is in Jeddah covering that conference. Quickly, we take our top stories at this moment. Take a look. A lot happening there in the world of business. Quickly, let's go to the capital market. Of course, the Nigeria Stock Exchange, and give you update of the trading data yesterday. We begin with the all share index. The market closed positive yesterday, marginally though, 0.05%. It closed yesterday with the all share index way above 50,000 basis points. And of course, the market cap there maintained the same position all the week, 28.6 trillion. And of course, the volume of traded shares among investors there standing at 640.97 million, and of course, valued at 7.132 billion naira in a deals worth 5,684. This were the highlight of the shares actually that exchanged hands among investors yesterday on the trading floor. Quickly, we look at the gainers, the top gainers for the day. We have the like of corn oil. Corn oil is back on the gainers chart for a very long time. They've not really been there. They gained huge yesterday, 48 naira 40 kobo there to close strong there at 10%. And of course, Multiverse is a mining and exploration company quoted there on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, standing second there, 3 naira rather 75 kobo to close on the gainers chart there, 9.97%. And of course, John Hott gained 1 naira 91 kobo there to close strong there at 9.77%. That is a very strong performance there from this sector. And of course, we look at the losers, the top bottom. Of course, equities yesterday, we have the Unity Bank there losing 49 kobo to close a negative there at 9.26%. And for Japan Gold, also down there, they're losing 31 kobo there to close there at 8.82%. And of course, Curtis, the cable manufacturing industry, also losing naira 28 kobo to close there in the negative territory at 8.280%. That's a highlight of the losers table for the day. We have about 18 losers there, but these are the top one that we're actually looking at today. Quickly look at the top traded stocks yesterday, all of them in the banking sector. The Access Bank, it is there, UBA, and of course, First Bank of Nigeria is also there with a cumulative, shares trading. If you look at the Access Bank, there 130 million volume of shares. Of course, 91.1 million there done by UBA, and of course, FBN 81 million volume of shares exchange hands among investors of these companies. Of course, this is not really unconnected with the liquidity that we know is always available in the banking sector. So it's actually part of the attraction to the investors. So we look at the sector performance, the performance across key sectors. Of course, the banking sector stays strong there at 0.76%, maintain that position all the week. Of course, the NJS Industrial closing flat there, though in the negative side. But again, the marginal, the loss is not really significant as one will expect. But again, if you look at the NJS consumer goods, it's also down 0.73%, and of course, oil and gas there doing strong there. We saw this is a part of what we saw from the corner here there, which closed as one of the top gainers for the trading yesterday. So that has reflected in the performance of the NJS oil and gas sector, doing strong there, 1.12%. If you go down to insurance, insurance is down 0.22% there. This is how the performance across the sector fared on the trading floor on Tuesday. So moving on to the rest of Africa, what the market in Africa and do, of course, GSE in South Africa closing negative there at 1.01%. Of course, a total of about 289.577 million volume of shares were exchanged hands yesterday among the investors of that company. And if you look at the deals, a huge number of deals there. If you know the GSE rather in South Africa is one of the biggest markets in Africa. So you see a total of 309,825 deals were actually done yesterday on that bourse, and that is a reflection of the kind of the kind of trading that takes place in that part of the continent. And of course, if you look at in terms of performance, if you want to measure it with what we have on Monday, this is about 3% improvement in terms of volume, 28% improvement in turnover, and of course 23% improvement in terms of deal. And of course, the market cap is standing there strong at 20.9 trillion rand. There is a very huge number, of course. So we quickly look at the NSE is in Nairobi, Kenya, closing negative there, 0.15%. That is not a very good performance for the stock for the NSE in the eastern part of Africa. And of course, if you look at GSE in Ghana, GSE in Ghana is closing strong there. Ghana is a West African neighbor there. Although it's flat, but again, it's on the positive side there. The market closed flat. That's very, very interesting to say in terms of what is happening in the market in Nigeria and, of course, across the rest of Africa. A whole lot of issues has been happening in Nigeria. And, of course, yesterday, we did see a statement from Femi Otedola with regards to his planned taking over of Transcorp, which was rejected. He actually bid 250 billion naira, but his bid was rejected. He did make a statement yesterday that his plan was to increase the market capitalization of the company to 2 trillion naira from the current 40 billion naira. But that bid was rejected. He was not really so happy about it. But again, what will you say? He did say that his plan is to increase the, increase the market cap of the company and make it one of the viable company in the market. I have my guest right here in the studio. Tony George is the head of education and, of course, products research rather at Equity Market Capital. He joins me right here in the studio. Mr. George, you may want to react to that planned takeover that didn't work yesterday, that didn't work between Femi Otedola and, of course, Transcorp. What will you say to that?
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I think it was a nice move by Femi Otedola to actually take over the conglomerate. Okay, we've seen this over time in past years in his interest, particularly to take over Transcorp, right? Already we see how much he has invested even in time past, owning about 6% of the company shares. That's a very huge number, owning over 2.5 billion amount of shares. I mean, that shows somebody who is very serious. And if he's saying that he wants to take the company from a total revenue of last year they did about 410 billion naira, okay, in total revenue, and about 30 billion in net profit. So if he's saying that he wants to take this from 410 to 2 trillion, for me personally, I don't doubt him, because of course we know he's the billionaire that bounced back from nothing. So it simply means he can still do the same with Transcorp.
Oh, fantastic! Can actually do the same with Transcorp. That is, if his bid was had been accepted, rather.
Yes, exactly.
But again, if you look at what he said yesterday, he actually went down memory lane to explain his relationship with Tony Elumelu. But it did look as if they are not really having rosy as we see in the public.
Yes. What we can actually talk about, especially on national TV like this, is what they've actually come out to say, that this is it and this is it. All right, but from the look of things, you know, even Tony Elumelu himself was interviewed some days back, and he was like, there's no problem between the both of them. In fact, Femi Otedola's investment in Transcorp is actually welcomed, and he does not have any problem if Femi Otedola takes over the highest number of shares in the company. So, but then Femi Otedola, on the other hand, has come out to say some few things. We're yet to get the full details, and until then, we can't really say much on what is going. But I know that what we're seeing is just little as to what meets the eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite a lot then that will be unraveled in the coming days as well. So let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll go into our main discussion, Nigeria Economic Agenda 2050 rather. So many agendas, Vision 2010, Vision 2020, ERGP, and a couple of them. What have been the impact of all of these things? We'll tell you about that when we return from this break. Don't go away.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Glad to have you back. It's the Business Daily right here on Trust Television. Nigeria is set to become a middle income economy by 2050. That is according to the new economic plan launched by President Muhammadu Buhari last week. We have had all this from a very long time. We had Vision 2010, Vision 2020, and at the beginning to it, at the early part of this administration, we have the ERGP, Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. Of course, National Development Plan as well. All of them, we have launched them. What have been the impact of all of these things to our national development? Maybe my guest should react to that quickly.
All right. It's actually a pity, you know. Which one will I talk about first now? Because, you know, we woke up 1st of January 2020 thinking that Nigeria was going to be some sort of Little London or United States based on Vision 2020. All right, but it seems like that wasn't the case, because obviously we saw life on ground that nothing really about that plan was properly implemented or executed. But then we're still very optimistic, of course. We already have the Vision 2050 being launched, and also midterm plans that are already in place, like the 2021 to 2025. And we're actually looking at all these things. Some key factors and indicators had been penned down to see that even the coming administrations actually follow the plan to achieve all of these things. We are only optimistic until these things have been implemented. We can't really see what is the fate of Nigeria, even with respect to all the agendas and visions that have been released.
But is economic development about launching agendas? I remember Vision 2010 of Abacha. It did not see the light of the day. Probably maybe died with Abacha. So now after them we have Vision 2020. All of these things will be launching them, but not proper implementation has taking place to reflect that indeed we have planned. Is economic development all about just having plans?
It's one thing to talk, it's another thing to walk the talk. And Nigeria, it's a pity, I'm so sorry, but we like to talk plenty and not want to walk the talk. So it's beautiful when you put up ideas, pen them down, write them down, let us see it. If this is a beautiful and brilliant idea, what is the implementation plan? So most times we put up beautiful ideas, but no implementation plan. So how do we get to where we want to go to? That's a major problem. In fact, from Vision 2010, Vision 2020, and even Vision 2050, what is the implementation plan? In fact, ICRO made mention of 10 key things that were lacking in achieving Vision 2020. And those 10 key things would have actually been taken care of if there was a proper implementation plan attached to the agenda that was released. And that is our big problem. But I know very well that if this gap can be breached, I mean, economic growth will definitely emanate from whatever plan or whatever agenda that is being released.
Let's look at this. One of the key things that the agenda aims to achieve is to increase our GDP per capita to $33,328 per annum.
Yes.
$33,328 per annum. That is placing Nigeria among the top middle-income economies in the world by 2020.
Exactly.
Currently, our GDP per capita is just way above 2,000.
About 2080.
About
2080, thereabouts.
Or dollars.
Yes.
About that. Now, to move from 2080 to $33,000 in how many years? Let's say about
in 27 years.
7 years or thereabout.
27 years.
How feasible is this? What are the implementable plans that we have on ground to achieve this?
Well, I would say that is a huge ambition by Nigeria to want to see that they increase their GDP per capita. I mean, if we can get to 33,000, if we can get to 33,300 that is being estimated, of course that would place us in a very good position even on the national scale of things. All right, because of course, okay, let me give you an instance. In the 1960s, Nigeria was actually listed among the Asian tigers. We know the Asian tigers, right? We know Taiwan, we know South Korea, we know Singapore and their likes. All right, and as at the time, Nigeria has already gained independence, but these guys were already struggling. Singapore was just kicked out in Malaysia. From Malaysia, they were already struggling with their economy. South Korea also was having their own fair share of war and economic downturns and all that. But Nigeria was actually performing very very well. We're just coming from independence. Everything was going very well. Our 1 naira was pegged to one pound, which is approximately $1.52. I mean, we were thriving really well, right? So what happened from 1960 to this day that our per capita, our GDP per capita is 2080? Look at Singapore, it's over 70,000. I mean, their GDP per capita. Look at Taiwan. We can't even compare ourselves with the Asian tigers, which we had strong edge and advantage about. But if we now wake up to say, okay, we have woken up, we want to take things to the next level, and we want to be among the middle class of countries in the world, and we want to increase our GDP from 2080 to 33,000. I mean, it's very possible, but can we walk the talk?
That is the most important thing, walking the talk. My concern is that you have made a reference to some countries that are doing well in Asia and Europe as well. But now, let's look at how some of these countries have been able to get to where they are. One of the major problems we're having here is the issue of corruption. Our inability to manage our God-given resources.
Exactly.
Nigeria itself is not a poor nation. We are blessed from north, south, down to the east. But we have not really been able to tap all the natural resources that we have on the continent. Where do you think the problem is coming from? Is it a leadership problem? Or is it a problem that probably we can attribute to some foreign influence?
It's glaring that it's Nigeria's biggest problem is leadership and not whatever thing that we have, right? So sorry, I'm still making reference to these Asian tigers. Take for instance Singapore. Singapore already also have an agenda. All right, they have what they call the Singapore Master Plan, and of course that master plan is being reviewed 5 to 10 years. Every 5 to 10 years, they sit down, they look at it. What have we achieved? What did we do right? What did we not do right? What should we do? All right, and those master plan has not just the roadmap, the implementation plans are already attached to it that they want to walk through it, right? So now let's look at it. We want to, the Agenda 2050, we want to reduce people living in poverty from about 83 million to about 47 million. That's over slightly above 50%. Perfect. I don't have any problem with that. We want to also create about 165 million jobs in these 27 years. Awesome. We want to increase our GDP per capita to over 7%. It's not too ambitious. It's possible. But what are the plans? If the leadership can sit down to say that, okay, this can be done, all right? I mean, the coming leaderships, and especially the issue of corruption, just like you rightly mentioned, is taken out or reduced. It cannot be completely taken out, but reduced to the barest minimum. Then it simply means that we can achieve these things. What did other nations do to increase their GDP per capita? What did other nations do to ensure that their nations are rightly positioned on the global scale of things? They had to do certain things. One, they invested in education, which is very key and paramount. Our educational system is very powerful. I was literally crying when I got to know that some weeks ago, Nigerians are trapped in Sudan. I mean, Nigerian students that went to study. How will me, a Nigerian, stand up and go and study in Sudan? I mean, I was literally crying, right? Because our educational system is even one of the best, but we have neglected it. So if we can rightly invest even in education, just like many other nations did, when China was to also rise up, right, to strategically position themselves, one of the key things that they did was to invest in education, sent their people out to Europe, to America, and all that. And of course, in going the years down, we saw how that greatly impacted their destiny. So another thing that we also need to look at is not just infrastructure. We need to also put a comfortable place where investors can come in and rightly do business. All these are some of the things that we need to look at, and then our GDP per capita will definitely increase irrespective of our population.
Absolutely. Very, 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 very interesting there. I can see the passion there from your explanation. But let's look at this. I'm worried about, you mentioned leadership as one of the key problems. We have had this development plan for many years. I'm still going back to Vision 2010. Do you think our inability to achieve or to get this plan implemented is because of the lack of continuity in leadership? Now, President Buhari, in a couple of days, will be out of office. We're going to have a new government. Though same political party, but again, sometimes they come in with different plans. Do you think the new incoming government, irrespective of who is coming in, will want to key into this economic agenda 2050? Because we expected this to have been launched at the beginning of this administration. Why now?
All right. For me to answer that question, we need to look at what is the details of the current agenda that was just launched. Now, we want to reduce poverty, right? We want to create over 165 million jobs. We want to increase our GDP per capita, all right? We want to take it to about $33,000, okay? And many more. Is it something that any leadership that is coming in should fight against? Is it not something that you should also tie your vision to? Because, of course, you're coming into power. What do you really want to do? Is it not to create jobs? And of course, this is what, it is not because this is launched by an APC government or whatever. This is not political party something. This is our Nigeria, and this is where we want to project our country. This is where we want to go. So irrespective of who comes, right, it's just to marry whatever vision you have with a long-term plan and see how things can work from your own end. Forget about the next people that are coming. Within the 4 years or within the 8 years you'll be in leadership, what can your administration achieve? What is a mileage? What is a percentage of the bulk of work that needs to be done that your administration can achieve? Once you can do that, forget about the next people. Okay, 27 years from now is about 3 administrations. Okay, let's say with 8 years tenure. I mean, this is possible to achieve. Our major problem in Nigeria is lack of continuity, all right, and consistency. Continuity and consistency. So if we can have everyone who is coming in have the right mind that, okay, this is where we want to position. For me personally, I'm scared because in 27 years from now, I'll be gradually getting old, right? So it simply means that I believed 2010, I did not see it happen. I believed 2020, I did not see it happen. Now I'm believing 2050, and by that time I might be close to my grave. What would I be living for? What will I be believing again in Nigeria?
Maybe for your children.
You can get.
You want a better country for them, absolutely.
Exactly.
So where we hope and wish the government the best is our country, and of course, for anything good and is coming in, I'll be very happy if my GDP per capita is even though $100,000 as well. So we look forward to this vision being achieved for the betterment of the country. Head of Education and Product Research at Equity Market Global, Mr. Toyin George, I must thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
I think we'll have to continue this discussion going forward. It's quite a whole lot
thank
to
you.
discuss. I want to thank you so much for coming. With that, it's a wrap on Business Daily today. Join us again tomorrow for more. I am Yusuf Akogu.